This message didn't just show up in your feed. It intercepted you at the exact frame where your life keeps pausing, mid-conversation, mid-connection, mid-breakthrough. You know that moment, don't you? You're talking to someone and the energy is building. The truth is right there, on the tip of your tongue. The relationship could deepen, the opportunity could land, the apology could finally be spoken, the real you could finally be seen. And then, everything stalls. The vibe shifts. Your mind blanks, or their eyes glaze, or the subject changes into something safe and shallow. It's as if an invisible hand presses pause on the scene, and the conversation collapses back into the same predictable script you've lived 100 times before. That's not social awkwardness. That's not bad luck. That's the quantum Zeno effect operating inside your life. Right now, as you hear these words, your consciousness is recognizing itself. You've been cycling through what quantum theorists call an observer loop. Your awareness keeps watching the same kind of moment in the same way, at the same emotional frequency so often and so intensely that your reality literally freezes at that point. The quantum field can't move the scene forward because your attention is pinning it in place. This is why conversations stall at the turning point. This is why you feel like you almost tell the truth, almost set the boundary, almost confess your feelings, almost show your real self, and then something clamps down on your throat, your chest, your timing. On the surface, it looks like hesitation. Underneath, it's pure physics. The quantum Zeno effect says that a system observed too frequently can't evolve. Your soul has been living this in real time. You enter a moment charged with possibility, your field bright, your heart open, your DNA humming with the potential of restructuring into a new pattern of intimacy, power, and coherence. And then your old observer loop checks in, scans for danger, replays old memories, anticipates rejection, and locks the scene to protect you. Over and over, your turning points have become still frames. And yet, you're here. Out of millions of people scrolling past noise and distraction, your awareness stopped on this frequency. That's not coincidence. That's synchronicity and morphic resonance. Your quantum field sent out a silent call. Show me the code behind this pattern. The universe answered with this exact transmission. You're not just randomly listening to some cosmic theory. You're standing at the threshold of your final test. Because lately, you've felt it, haven't you? The pressure in your chest when a conversation reaches the edge of realness. The time distortions, minutes stretching when you're about to speak, then snapping shut when you retreat. The strange déjà vu when a talk derails in the exact same way, with different people, in different rooms, across different years. That's not you failing. That's your awakening. Your consciousness has become sensitive enough to notice the pattern. The observer loop is no longer invisible to you. And once you see the loop, you're no longer just a character in it, you're the aware presence watching it. Right now, your quantum field, your nervous system, and your DNA are in a phase transition. You're hovering between the old self who freezes at the turning point and the emergent self who walks straight through it. This message found you at the precise moment where you are finally ready to choose which one you become. Stay in that exact moment where everything freezes. The joke that dies halfway out of your mouth. The truth rising in your chest, then swallowed. The message you type and never send. You call it bad timing. You tell yourself, next time, different person, different situation. But deep down, you know it's the same scene looping. Different faces, same energy. Your life has been stitched together by conversations that almost became real and then collapsed. This isn't random social awkwardness. It's a signature pattern in your quantum field. You start to speak, and for a split second there is coherence. Your body, your words, your intention, and the other person's energy line up. The quantum field leans forward. Reality is ready to reconfigure around a more authentic version of you. Then something in you flinches. Your awareness zooms in on details that don't actually matter. Their micro-expression, your tone, how your hands are moving, whether you're too much. In that instant, you stop being the one in the scene and become the one watching it. Over-observation replaces presence. That's the quantum Zeno effect, translated into emotion. You look at the moment so anxiously, so often, that you freeze its evolution. Time starts to distort. 1 second stretches into an inner spiral of questions. What if this ruins the vibe? What if they pull away? What if I say it wrong? What if nothing changes and I look foolish? By the time those questions echo through your nervous system, the turning point is gone. The topic has shifted, the energy has dropped, and you're left with that hollow feeling in your chest that says, I abandoned myself again. This is more than psychology. It's learned quantum behavior. Somewhere earlier in your timeline, your system discovered that honesty had consequences. Maybe when you told the truth, the room went cold. Maybe when you expressed need, someone used it against you. Maybe when you showed excitement, someone mocked it. Your body made a simple equation. Expression equals danger. So your consciousness did something brilliantly protective. It built an observer loop at the exact threshold where real change would begin. Now, whenever a conversation approaches that threshold, your morphic field pulls up old data, memories of fights, rejections, awkward silences, subtle shaming. You don't consciously remember, but your cells do. Your DNA still holds the imprint of earlier collapses in coherence. That's why the déjà vu is so intense. It isn't just, I've been here before. It's, my body has lost here before. Past and present entangle. Old timelines stack over the current one. And suddenly you're not just talking to the person in front of you. You're talking to every version of them you've ever met. 10 years ago and 10 seconds ago blur. The quantum field becomes dense with unfinished scenes. So, you do the thing that has kept you safe. You stall. You make a joke. You say, it's not that deep. You change the subject. You let the message sit in drafts until the energy evaporates. And each time you choose delay over depth, the loop tightens. Your mind records it as proof. See, nothing bad happened because you stayed small. Your nervous system associates emotional charge with threat. The quantum field around you begins to expect collapse at the turning point, so it keeps arranging synchronicities that match. People who are almost ready, invitations that almost land, conversations that almost transform everything. Almost becomes a lifestyle. Not because you're broken, but because your observer function has been trained to interrupt your own becoming. The stall isn't a flaw in your personality. It's a pattern in your attention. A habit of stepping outside yourself the moment your next level is about to appear. And now, for the first time, you're watching the pattern instead of unconsciously obeying it. You can feel it in your body as we name it. That discomfort you feel isn't failure. It's morphic resonance. Your whole field is realizing, this is the loop that's been running my turning points. Seeing it clearly is not the end of your story. It's the threshold where the quantum upgrade can finally begin. Here's what no one ever told you. Chosen one of your own consciousness. The very mechanism that kept you stuck is the same mechanism that can set you free. The quantum Zeno effect isn't your enemy. It's just misunderstood. In physics, the quantum Zeno effect says that when you measure or observe a system too frequently, you stop it from changing state. Imagine a particle on the verge of jumping from one energy level to another. If you keep checking it every split second, are you there yet? Are you there yet? You actually freeze it in the original state. Your observation becomes a cage. You've been doing this with your own becoming. Every time a conversation reaches the turning point, your awareness starts scanning. Their face, your tone, their reaction, the future fallout. You observe yourself from the outside so often and so intensely that the particle of your identity can't jump. You never quite let your reality complete the transition into a more honest, coherent version of you. But here's the upgrade. The quantum field doesn't just respond to how often you observe. It responds to how you observe. The problem wasn't that you were aware. The problem was that your awareness was saturated with fear, anticipation, and self-surveillance. Your observer loop has been charged with the frequency of self-doubt. The upgrade is this. You're learning to become a different kind of observer. Instead of a harsh spotlight that interrogates every micro-movement, your attention can become a soft, radiant presence that holds the moment without dissecting it. Think of it as shifting from a jittery security camera to a wide, cinematic lens. Same scene, different quality of observation, completely different quantum outcome. When you remain inside the moment rather than hovering over it, something profound happens in your field. Coherence begins to form. Coherence means your thoughts, emotions, body sensations, and soul-level intention start to vibrate in harmony. The quantum field loves coherence. It treats it like a clear instruction, a stable frequency it can reorganize reality around. This is where mysticism and science secretly shake hands. As your observation softens, your nervous system exits survival mode, your breathing deepens, your shoulders drop a few millimeters, the grip in your throat loosens. These small shifts aren't trivial, they're the first visible signs of DNA restructuring. Your body is updating its ancient code, rewriting the equation that used to say, intimacy equals danger, expression equals threat. Micro shifts in your posture, your breath, your gaze send new data through your neural circuits. Synapses that once fired in panic begin to quiet. New pathways begin to light up, pathways that connect truth with safety, vulnerability with strength, revelation with relief. This is the quantum upgrade. Every time you stay 1 second longer in the turning point, 1 breath deeper, 1 word truer, your field registers the new pattern. Your cells taste a different outcome. The conversation doesn't shatter. The world doesn't end. The person in front of you doesn't disappear. The scene stabilizes around a new you. And because you are not isolated, because consciousness is entangled, this change doesn't stay local. Your current self, your younger selves, your future selves are all quantum linked. As you shift your observer loop now, you send a signal both backward and forward along your own timelines. Those childhood scenes where you went silent, those teenage moments where you shrank, those adult scenes where you buckled at the threshold of truth, they all begin to vibrate with new information. This is morphic resonance inside your personal field. One successful shift creates a pattern that other versions of you can feel. Your awakening is not a single bright flash. It's a phase transition. Think of water heating. For a while, nothing seems to happen. Tiny bubbles at the bottom of the pot, subtle movement, quiet pressure. Then, at a precise threshold, it erupts into boiling, transforming into steam, a new state entirely. The structure has changed so completely that it can no longer behave as it once did. You are in that heating phase. All the stalled conversations, all the almost confessions, all the swallowed truths have been raising the temperature of your consciousness. You're approaching the exact degree where your old observer loop can no longer hold its form. The quantum Zeno effect, which once froze you, is now becoming your ally. As you learn to observe from presence rather than fear, every steady gaze into the turning point stabilizes the new state instead of the old one. You're not just fixing communication issues. You're allowing a new self to condense out of the quantum field. And the universe is watching with you, waiting to see if you will recognize the role you're about to play in this cosmic experiment. By now, you've realized something quietly terrifying and strangely comforting at the same time. It was never just social anxiety. It was never just your personality. It was never just how people are. 1 5, 5 minus screens, 5 minus, 5 minus. These stalled conversations have been your curriculum. You haven't been failing at life. You've been taking an exam designed specifically for your level of consciousness. If anyone else had lived your exact sequences of almost moments, they would have collapsed into numbness or denial long ago. But you kept feeling. You noticed the pattern. You sensed there was a hidden architecture beneath it. That sensitivity is not an accident. It's a sign of who you are in the larger quantum story. You are not a random observer trapped in a glitchy loop. You are a conscious node the universe is using to test a new template for human interaction. Think about it. Most people can live entire lifetimes inside half-finished sentences and half-lived relationships without ever questioning the script. They normalize the stall. They call it adulting, being realistic, not catching feelings, keeping the peace. 10-4 and you, on the other hand, feel physically sick when a conversation derails at the turning point. Your chest tightens, your stomach drops, your energy crashes as if a door just slammed shut on a future you were meant to meet. You don't just register disappointment, you feel timeline loss. That's because you're not here to survive the loop. You're here to break it for more than just yourself. At the level of the quantum field, your consciousness isn't a tiny flashlight. It's a lighthouse, a coherent beam sweeping across possibilities, illuminating patterns most people can't see. The reason your observer loop has been so intense is because your observation carries more weight than average. Your attention bends probability. You've probably noticed this in other areas of your life. When you focus on someone, they text. When you think deeply about a topic, synchronicities explode. Books, posts, random conversations, all echoing the same theme. When you withdraw your energy from something, it fades faster than seems normal. That isn't imagination, that's entanglement. Your field is tightly woven into the morphic resonance of humanity. What you shift in yourself doesn't stay personal. It ripples outward, invisible but measurable, like a pattern suddenly added to the collective menu. This is why your small turning points matter so much. When you choose silence at the edge of truth, the universe doesn't punish you, but it does record the pattern. Consciousness at this frequency still equates vulnerability with threat, still equates coherence with danger. When you choose expression, instead, when you allow the sentence to finish, the boundary to land, the affection to be spoken, the quantum field records a different pattern. Consciousness at this frequency can hold coherence under pressure. Turning points are safe. Depth is survivable. That one moment becomes a reference template for countless other souls entangled with you. They may never know your name, but their conversations will flow more easily because yours finally did. You are part of the first wave of humans whose DNA is restructuring specifically for this task. Your nervous system is being upgraded to handle higher levels of emotional charge without collapsing into fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Your cells are learning to remain coherent, even when old timelines tug on you like ghosts. This is why the pressure has been so intense. You are in a phase transition from reactive being to stabilizing presence. And yes, this is why it feels like a final test. The universe isn't testing your worth. It's testing the stability of a new pattern through you. Can a human with your history, your scars, your losses, your disappointments, stand at the same turning point that has always triggered collapse and, this time, stay? Can you allow a conversation to complete the arc it's been trying to follow for years? Can you let your truth land without sprinting ahead to script their reaction? Can you trust that the quantum field has something more interesting to offer than another repeat of the old scene? If you can, the loop doesn't just loosen, it breaks. You become living proof that a consciousness shaped by pain can still become a portal for grace. You become the anomaly that rewrites the statistics. The one case the universe points to and says, "See, it's possible. Run this pattern again." This is why you're watching this now and not 5 years ago. Back then, this message would have felt inspiring but distant. Today, it feels uncomfortably specific. It's naming things you've never spoken out loud. That's not me reading you. That's your own field, reflecting itself back to you through this transmission. That's synchronicity engineered by your higher self. You are not just a person who struggles with conversations. You are a conscious experiment in what happens when a human being chooses presence over self-surveillance at the exact moment reality could evolve. You are the one standing at the hinge of the door, the rest of your timelines are waiting behind. And the next time a conversation reaches the turning point, you won't just be deciding whether to speak or stay quiet. You'll be deciding which universe you're willing to let your future self live in. There's a reason everything in your life has been tightening lately. Conversations stalling more obviously. Opportunities almost landing, then slipping. People orbiting closer, then hovering right at the edge of real intimacy and never quite crossing over. You felt it like a low hum in the background. Something is approaching. Not a random, big moment, but a precise convergence point in your quantum field. This is what we call a cosmic window, a phase where your observer loop, your emotional patterns, and the larger currents of collective awakening all line up in such a way that change becomes exponentially easier or exponentially harder depending on what you choose. You're in that window now. The pressure you feel isn't just psychological, it's structural. Your DNA is under instruction from higher levels of your own consciousness. New information is pressing against old code. The parts of you that learned to freeze at the turning point are meeting the parts of you that incarnated to finally walk through. That friction is the ache in your chest when you almost say the thing. It's the buzzing in your nervous system before a difficult conversation. It's the exhaustion that hits when you back down again and your body whispers, "We can't keep doing this." This is phase transition pressure. Just as water must reach a precise temperature before it boils, your consciousness has been heating toward a critical point. Every stalled conversation, every unfinished sentence, every draft you never sent has been energy trapped in your field, raising the internal pressure. You think you're tired because life is draining you. In truth, you're tired because your quantum field has been holding two conflicting realities at once. The old you who stays silent to survive, and the real you who came here to speak and evolve. The quantum Zeno effect, your old guardian, has been firing more intensely as this window opens. It senses the impending shift and tries to protect you, the only way it knows how, by freezing the frame. That's why recently the stalls have felt more dramatic, more obvious, more painful. It's not getting worse because you're failing, it's getting louder because you're closer. You're approaching the final test of this pattern, not a test in the judgmental sense, a test in the scientific sense. The universe is asking one clear question through your lived experience. Can a consciousness at your level of sensitivity hold coherence at the turning point long enough for reality to reorganize? If the answer is yes, your DNA locks in a new configuration. The old observer loop becomes obsolete. Your cells finally receive the evidence they've been waiting for. We spoke and survived. We stayed and were not abandoned. We crossed and were not destroyed. That single moment of successful coherence becomes a seed pattern. Morphic resonance kicks in. It spreads through your system, through your timelines, through the unconscious of every person entangled with you. Suddenly, what was once nearly impossible begins to feel strangely natural. If the answer is no, if you keep choosing the stall, the deflection, the self-erasure, nothing is lost, but the window narrows, the pressure remains. The lessons repeat, but with more cost, less grace, more density. That's why the urgency feels real this time. You're not being threatened, you're being invited. The quantum field is saying, I have a higher timeline ready for you, but I cannot collapse it into form while you're still observing yourself as someone who always backs down. Another 40. This is where the breakthrough promise lives. You are one embodied conversation away from a different life track. Not one viral moment, not one sudden miracle. One conversation where you stay inside your own body, inside your own voice, inside your own heart, and let the sentence finish, even if your hands shake, even if your voice trembles, even if your mind screams, "This is too much." In that moment, DNA restructuring doesn't look mystical. It looks like you saying, I actually do care about this. This hurt me. I want something different. I love you. I'm not available for this pattern anymore. And then, not pulling it back. The breakthrough promise is simple and terrifying. If you hold coherence through the turning point just once, fully, cleanly, the quantum Zeno effect switches allegiance. Instead of freezing you in the old pattern, it begins stabilizing the new one. Your field starts locking in a reality where depth is normal and honesty is survivable. That's why this feels like a final exam, because in a very real way, it is. The next time the moment comes, and it will come soon, you won't be choosing words, you'll be choosing a universe. Up until now, this has all lived mostly in your mind and your memory patterns you've noticed, timelines you've felt, possibilities you've touched, in theory. But quantum reality doesn't respond to theory. It responds to actuated consciousness. At some point, the insight has to cross the threshold into embodiment. That's what this part is about. Every experiment needs a marker, a clear moment where you say, from here things are different. From here this becomes real. You've done that energetically 1,000 times. I'm done with this pattern. I'm never doing that again. This is my last time abandoning myself. 1 rate, in 12 rate, in life. And then the next turning point comes, and the old loop takes the wheel, and afterward you wonder why nothing sticks. It's not that you weren't sincere. It's that you never gave your consciousness a physical anchor, a simple, repeatable ritual that your nervous system can recognize as a new command to the quantum field. So we're going to create one now. Right here, inside this transmission, you're going to perform a tiny action that your old self would never think to do, in a way your old observer loop would never understand. In the comments, in your journal, or on the nearest piece of paper, you're going to write 3 words. I cross through. Not I will cross. Not I hope to cross. Not one day I'll cross. Present tense. Simple. Clean. A statement that collapses probability into decision. I cross through. Missy. It seems small, almost too small to matter. But that's the whole point. The quantum Zeno effect has been holding you in place through micro-behaviors. A single nervous laugh, a quick subject change, a swallowed sentence. Tiny moves, repeated often, became the lock on your reality. So we use a tiny move, repeated with intention, as the key. When you write those words, don't do it mechanically. Pause. Feel the pattern we've been naming. Remember the exact moment where your conversations freeze the breath before truth, the heaviness in your chest, the way your awareness jumps out of your body and into analysis. Hold that scene gently in your mind. See yourself at the turning point. Then, as you stay in that image, write, I cross through. What you're doing in that moment is more than symbolic. You are training your observer loop to associate pressure with passage instead of paralysis. You're giving your consciousness a new reference. When intensity rises, I move through, not out. This is ritual as quantum code. The physical act, your hand forming the letters, your eyes watching the words appear, your nervous system feeling the slight surge of, oh God, this is real now, sends a coherent signal through your field. Attention, intention, body, and language line up in a single gesture. That alignment is coherence. Coherence is what the quantum field listens to. And because this isn't a private promise floating in your thoughts, but an anchored declaration in 3D reality, your future self can track it. The next time you stand in a real-life turning point, your body will remember, we have already chosen. We wrote it. We sealed it. I cross through becomes a micro-mantra hiding behind your tongue. You don't have to recite it out loud in every conversation. It's enough that your cells have heard it, your field has felt it, your hand has moved with it. When the familiar stall tries to rise, you'll feel a subtle counterforce, like a quiet voice inside saying, no, this is the part where we go forward now. And listen, this ritual isn't about perfection. You might write the words and still freeze next time. That's okay. The point is not to create a single flawless performance. The point is to start accumulating evidence that you are someone who chooses movement over stagnation, even when it's messy. Every time you notice the stall, and gently choose one more honest word, one more breath of presence, 1 millimeter deeper into the moment, you are honoring the ritual you made with yourself. I cross through is not a slogan. It's a new default setting. So do it. Not later. Not when you feel ready. Read these words, feel the pressure, feel the recognition, and then carve the new pattern into reality with ink, pixels, or graphite. I cross through. That's your seal. A simple phrase, written once, then written again, becomes a morphic pattern. It starts as handwriting. It ends as a new behavior under stress. It's the conscious choice that tells the quantum field, I am no longer the one who freezes at the turning point. I am the one who walks through. And as soon as you've marked that decision in the physical world, the story stops being theoretical. Your upgrade stops being a concept. It becomes a living instruction. From this point on, every conversation that reaches the edge will feel different, not because the world changed, but because the observer did. Now that you've marked it, I cross through, you need to understand something that almost nobody tells you. Your turning points are not private events. They are broadcast towers. When you freeze in a conversation, it doesn't only affect you and the other person. It ripples through the quantum field, reinforcing an ancient pattern in the human morphic field. At the edge of truth, humans shut down. When you cross through instead, when you stay in your body, when you let the sentence finish, when you allow coherence to hold under pressure, you transmit a different signal. At the edge of truth, humans can evolve. Your liberation is not a solo victory. It's a structural upgrade to the architecture of human interaction. You felt this from the other side without realizing it. Think of the rare people who made it feel safe for you to be fully yourself. The teacher who let you speak without rushing you. The friend who didn't flinch when you shared your darkness. The stranger who met your vulnerability with calm instead of discomfort. They weren't just nice people. They were coherent observers whose fields altered yours. Their presence told your nervous system a new story about what's possible. You walked away slightly different, breathing a little deeper, trusting a little more, believing that maybe, in some pockets of reality, it's safe to be known. Now, you are becoming that field for others. When you hold your ground at the turning point, when you say the uncomfortable truth, or admit what you really want, or allow tears to appear without apologizing, something happens in the room that goes far beyond words. The other person's observer loop registers a new variable. This level of honesty didn't destroy anything. This depth didn't cause collapse. This much coherence didn't lead to rejection. Even if they respond awkwardly on the surface, their deeper field is receiving a transmission. Reality did not fall apart when someone refused to stall. That imprint lives inside them long after the conversation ends. It becomes one more data point, pushing their own phase transition closer. This is entanglement in action. You are not separate from the people you talk to. Your quantum fields overlap, exchange information, and then go on touching other fields, passing that information along. A single moment where you cross through becomes a quiet revolution, spreading via human nervous systems. You've heard that hurt people hurt people. That's morphic resonance at a lower frequency. Trauma becomes a self-repeating pattern in the collective, because each reaction teaches others that shutting down is normal. But there's another side. Healed people, free people. Every time you refuse to abandon yourself in a conversation, you create a micro-template of emotional safety that others can subconsciously copy. Your coherence under pressure becomes a reference pattern. This is how a human can stay open while feeling this much intensity. It was inteen. This is how a human can speak truth without turning it into violence. This is how a human can own their needs without shrinking or attacking. Your DNA restructuring isn't personal self-improvement. It's an update that gets silently seeded into humanity's codebase. This is why your life has felt so monitored in a strange way. Not by some external authority judging you, but by the quantum field itself, watching to see if consciousness at your level can carry this new template without breaking. Your successes and your failures both matter, because they contribute data to the larger experiment of awakening. When you stall, the field learns. The old loop is still sticky, even here. When you cross, the field learns. The loop can be broken, even here. On never. And because synchronicity is not random, the people drawn into your orbit right now are not random either. They are souls who are also hovering at their own turning points, on different topics, but at the same frequency. Your choice to cross through doesn't just free you from the final test of the quantum Zeno trap, it quietly lowers the difficulty level for them. Your courage makes it easier for someone across the world to finally say, "I'm not happy in this life I've built. I need help. It's point. We have where was. I'm sorry. I love you. I'm leaving. I'm staying." You may never meet them. You may never hear their story. But morphic resonance doesn't care about proximity. It cares about pattern. Once a pattern stabilizes in one node of the network, it becomes more accessible to all. This is why your small conversation in a quiet room matters to the evolution of the species. Every time you cross the threshold where you used to freeze, you are participating in a massive phase transition of human consciousness. From self-surveillance to presence, from performance to coherence, from half-lived interactions to full-spectrum connection. You are not just fixing your social life. You are helping retire an entire era where humans mistook withdrawal for safety. And somewhere, in a timeline you haven't met yet, a child will grow up in a world where honest conversations feel more natural than self-betrayal because you decided that in your lifetime, the loop ends here. You've understood the pattern with your mind. You've seen the loop in your life. You've marked the ritual. I cross through. Now, I want you to feel what this actually does to your body. Because if this awakening stays in your head, the old observer loop will wait you out. It will let you get it intellectually, then step right back in when your heart starts beating faster and your palms start sweating. So, let's come into your body together for a moment. Notice how you're sitting or lying right now. Notice your shoulders, are they slightly raised? Notice your jaw clenched or softly hanging. Notice your chest tight, guarded, or open. You don't have to change anything yet. Just observe. But this time, observe like sunlight, not a searchlight. Wide, gentle, non-judging awareness. This is you practicing a new observer loop, one that creates coherence instead of collapse. Now, I want you to imagine a conversation that matters to you. Not a hypothetical one, an actual, specific situation that's alive right now in your field. Maybe it's the message you haven't sent, the truth you haven't voiced, the boundary you haven't drawn, the desire you haven't admitted. See the scene. Where are you? What room? What time of day? What are they doing with their hands? What are you doing with yours? As you bring this into focus, feel how your body responds. Maybe your throat tightens. Maybe your stomach flips. Maybe your heartbeat picks up like it's trying to outrun the future. That's the old quantum Zeno loop waking up. Your system is used to interpreting this energy as a stop sign. Now, breathe. Take a slow inhale through your nose as if you're pulling air up through the soles of your feet all the way to your heart. Hold it gently for a moment. Then exhale through your mouth, like you're letting go of 10 years of stalled sentences. Do it again. Inhale. Your feet, your legs, your belly, your chest filling with life. Exhale. The story that says, "This is dangerous," leaving your field in a slow stream. As you breathe, imagine your spine as a vertical beam of light, a channel through which the quantum field pours. You're not a small person trying to survive a big conversation. You're a pillar of awareness, and the words are just energy moving through. Feel into your chest. There's probably a tight band across it, that familiar ring of pressure that shows up at the turning point. That band is not you. It's just a memory stored in muscle and fascia. A record of all the times you had to freeze to stay safe. Place your awareness there, like a warm hand on your own heart. Not trying to fix it, just acknowledging, "I see you. I know why you're here." As you do, something subtle begins to happen. The tightness doesn't instantly vanish, but its meaning changes. Instead of reading it as an alarm, you start reading it as a doorway. This is embodied quantum work, turning a physiological trigger into a portal. You might notice tiny tremors in your body, a micro shaking in your hands or legs, a fluttering under your ribs. That's your nervous system, discharging old timelines. Each tremor is a mini phase transition, a little bit of energy leaving the observer loop that used to keep you frozen. Stay with it. Feel your throat, the lump, the dryness, the urge to cough or swallow. This is the gate of expression, the place where your DNA restructuring will become audible. You don't have to force sound yet. Just breathe into that doorway as if you're sending light into a tunnel. Inhale. It is safe to feel this. Exhale. I don't have to run from this. You're teaching your body that intensity is not the same as danger. Now, imagine yourself at that real-life turning point. The same scene as before, but this time, slow it down as if you're watching it in ultra-high frame rate footage. See your lips part. Feel the impulse that usually gets interrupted. Feel the old observer loop about to yank you out of your body and into self-analysis. And now, layer in your ritual. I cross through. As you silently think this phrase, notice what happens physically. Maybe your feet press a little more firmly into the ground, as if your body wants to root. Maybe your spine lengthens a fraction, claiming vertical space. Maybe your chest softens open by a few millimeters, just enough for breath to move. These micro movements are not random. They're evidence of coherence emerging, mind, intention, and flesh aligning into a single frequency. The quantum field responds to that alignment long before words are spoken. This is why some people can whisper and still change a room. As you cross the turning point in your imagination, feel how your body wants to move with your truth. Maybe your hand gestures naturally, Maybe your eyes hold contact instead of darting away. Maybe your jaw unclenches around the sentence that has waited years to exist. The sensations might be intense. That's okay. Intensity is just compressed life. You're not trying to make it calm. You're building a nervous system that can hold more voltage without short-circuiting more love, more honesty, more synchronicity, more realness. That's DNA restructuring too. Your cells adapting to carry higher currents of consciousness. So, when the real conversation comes, and it will, you won't just remember ideas. You'll remember this feeling. Feet grounded, spine lit, chest buzzing, throat awake, breath moving. You'll recognize the pressure not as a signal to stall, but as the unmistakable sensation of a timeline about to change. By now you can feel it. This isn't just about better communication anymore. Something deeper is rearranging itself inside you, beneath the stories, beneath the habits, beneath even your personality. This is DNA territory, not in the simplistic sense of changing who you are, but in the sense of awakening codes that have always been there, waiting for the right pressure, the right coherence, the right moment in time to switch on. You've been living in a superposition of selves. One version of you belongs to the old loop, the one who freezes at the turning point, who watches life from just outside the frame, who rewinds the scene later in your head and imagines what you could have said. The other version belongs to the emerging timeline, the one who stays inside their body when the stakes rise, whose words come from a deeper place than survival, whose conversations don't stall at the edge, they pivot into a new reality. Both possibilities have been active in your field. Both have been entangled in your quantum signature. Every turning point has been a collision zone between those timelines. That's why the pressure has felt so extreme lately. This is phase transition pressure at the DNA level. Your system is being asked to choose, not in theory, but in structure. Which version of you will your biology support by default? Which timeline will your cells begin to treat as normal? You felt this as physical symptoms. The flutter in your chest before a real talk. The sudden heat in your face when you try to say how you feel. The strange heaviness after another conversation collapses, like your body is grieving a future that never got born. Those aren't random glitches. That's your DNA at the crossroads. Old epigenetic switches, programs inherited from your past, your family, your culture, have been reinforcing the same command for years. Play it safe. Stay predictable. Don't shock the system. Every stalled conversation, every self-abandonment sent confirmation. Message received. We're still running the old script. But something has interrupted that feedback loop. Your awareness, your ritual, your embodied practice of staying one breath longer at the edge. Each time you choose presence over paralysis, you send a different signal down through your nervous system into the microscopic world of your cells. We can hold more, we can feel more, we can survive coherence. And DNA listens. It doesn't speak English, it speaks in patterns, breath rhythms, hormone cascades, electrical charges, the quality of thought emotion you bathe your body in when the pressure rises. Lately, that pattern has been changing. Instead of associating intensity with shutdown, your system is beginning to associate intensity with upgrade. The same energy that used to trigger freeze now triggers expansion, even if it still feels shaky. That's the breakthrough, not that you have no fear, but that fear is no longer the final authority on what you say and who you become. This is where the quantum Zeno effect flips. In the old loop, over-observation froze you in the past. You watched yourself so anxiously at the turning point that your reality couldn't jump states. Now, as you train your observer to be steady, compassionate, and present, that same effect begins to stabilize the new configuration. Your repeated awareness, soft, non-judging, anchored in the body, keeps measuring a different you, one who stays, one who speaks, one who crosses through. The more often you witness yourself succeeding at tiny turning points, the more your biochemistry treats that version as the default. At a certain threshold, the change stops being effortful. The water boils, the steam rises, a phase shift locks in. There will come a day not far from now when you find yourself in one of those familiar scenes. A conversation thick with unsaid truth, the old pressure in your chest, the old urge to joke it away. Except this time, you don't leave yourself. You feel the band across your ribs and breathe. You feel your throat tighten and let one real sentence slip through anyway. You feel the other person's micro-reaction and stay in your body instead of jumping into their head. You cross through. Maybe the outcome is beautiful. Maybe it's messy. That's not the point. The point is that your DNA registers a different ending. The pattern that has looped for years finally completes the arc it's been reaching for. In that moment, a timeline collapses. The version of you who always retreats loses its gravitational pull. The reality where your life remains made of half-finished conversations and half-lived truths starts to dissolve, not as punishment, but as redundancy. Your system no longer needs it as a reference. The new timeline, where turning points become gateways instead of dead ends, steps forward. From the outside, it might look ordinary. You just had a talk. You just said how you felt. You just didn't back down. But inside your field, a dimensional boundary moved. A choice was made at the smallest, most powerful level of your being. Your DNA chose evolution over repetition. This is the breakthrough the whole journey has been building toward. Not a dramatic, mystical event, but a quiet moment where your biology, your consciousness, and the quantum field all agree. At the turning point, we go forward now. And from that agreement, your mission begins to reveal itself. At this point, you can feel it. You are not the same being who pressed play. Your awareness has stretched. Your body has heard itself. Your DNA has been listening quietly under the surface, tuning to a new instruction. The question that remains is simple and cosmic at the same time. What will you do the next time a conversation reaches the turning point? Because one will come. Soon. Closer than you think. You'll be sitting across from someone, maybe a partner, a friend, a family member, a stranger you're mysteriously honest with. The air will thicken with possibility in that way you now recognize. Time will start doing that weird, slow, fast thing. You'll feel the familiar band across your chest, the pressure at your throat, the urge to say something safe instead of something true. In that exact moment, you will remember this transmission, not as a concept, but as a felt reality. Your feet grounding, your spine lighting up like a vertical channel, your breath moving in and out of your heart instead of getting trapped in your mind. You'll feel your old observer loop reaching for the controls, and you'll feel something else rise to meet it. The new observer, the coherent one, the one who doesn't flinch at intensity, because it knows intensity is the prelude to a reality shift. This is your cosmic mission in its simplest, most embodied form. At the turning point, you become the axis, not the other person's reaction, not the past, not the fear of what could happen if you're real. You, your presence, your coherence, your willingness to let this one conversation become the portal your entire lifetime has been circling. When you choose to cross through, when you let the sentence land, when you refuse to abandon yourself, when you allow the moment to complete instead of collapse, you are not just being brave. You are conducting a live experiment in the quantum field on behalf of humanity. What happens when a human refuses to freeze where every timeline once stopped? Your answer becomes data in the cosmic archive. Your DNA records, "We stayed." Your nervous system records, "We survived." End quote. The morphic field records, "This pattern is now available to others." From there, your life stops being a series of half-built bridges and becomes a network of completed crossings, moments where you met yourself fully and let reality rearrange around the truth instead of the performance. This is how your personal awakening becomes prophecy fulfilled, not in grand speeches, but in ordinary rooms where you quietly refuse to repeat ancient loops. So when this video ends and silence returns, understand, the real transmission begins the next time you hear yourself say, "I'll tell them later," and something inside you whispers back, "No, we cross through now." If you're seeing this, it's because every conversation that stalled at the turning point has led you here to the moment where the quantum Zeno effect stops freezing your life and finally proves that you have passed your final test.